The Kings just continue to bounce back from bad losses. They've had a whole lot of bad losses this season, but every single time they bounce back with a good win or two or a good stretch, and right away they bounced back against the Orlando Magic in Orlando. And this was a huge win. At this point of the season, I don't like saying, games are must wins because they're not, but every game is huge because of how tight the race is for sixth place in the Western Conference, and to stay out of the play-in would be huge. And for some reason, these Kings Magic games, they always seem to be entertaining lately. And this was just a very good and fun game. It was the type of game that was definitely stressful, but it wasn't stressful in the way like the game against the Wizards or even other games have been, where it's stressful in a way because the Kings are blowing it or something. Like, this was just a good game between two good teams. And so for the Kings to come away with this win, I thought was very impressive, especially when you look at the contributions off of the benches for each team. When you look at the Kings bench, 7 combined points, and I think 53 combined bench minutes for the Kings. That includes Malik Monk going 0 for 11 from the field with 0 points. And then you look on the other side, the Magic bench, and you just have Jonathan Isaac coming out and absolutely dominating from the second he got out there. He played 23 minutes and scored 25 points. You had Cole Anthony scoring 16, although it's a little different because he did start the second half. So not, I wouldn't totally say that's bench minutes because Caleb Houston did go out with an injury. But the Magic just got a lot more production off of their bench than the Kings, and the Kings were still able to come away with the win. I said that the Kings were going to have to hit their threes to win this game, and that was definitely true because the Magic were making it tough inside. They're a very long team. They're just really tough to score on inside. Both teams used zone defenses for a lot of this game, which was really interesting. You just don't see that often in the NBA, where just both teams are playing zones for a lot of the game. For the past two games, the Kings had shot under 30% from three, and Keegan Murray especially had been really struggling from deep the last 2 weeks or so. And the Kings, they needed to outshoot the Magic, and that's exactly what they did. They shot 37.5% from three, and the Magic shot 28.6%. And it was just very nice to see Keegan Murray get going from the 3 point line because he, like I said, he had been struggling. And we saw that last game against the Wizards where he got it going from the mid range, but still, he went 2 for 4 from three, but it wasn't the big breakout game, and he didn't play a lot of minutes for some reason. But in this one, this was the shooting breakout for him, going 6 for 7 from three, 22 points, and just made big shots when the Kings needed him to. There were large portions of this game where neither team was really able to score, especially in the third quarter, where I think both teams went over 5 minutes, not simultaneously, although the stretches did overlap, but both teams had 5 minute stretches of not scoring a field goal. So it was very much a defensive game, and it's just been so interesting to watch the Kings all of a sudden just become a defensive team now, apparently. The offense, not as good anymore, but the defense, like top five now. And so Keon Ellis, obviously a big part of that. And this was very much the Keon Ellis game, although I hesitate to say that because he's had so many games that you could say are the Keon Ellis game. So it was just another Keon Ellis game, apparently. But he had a career high 19 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 0 turnovers, 5 rebounds, 4 for 9 from 3, 7 for 12 from the field, including a step back long two in the fourth quarter to just bail the Kings offense out. And that was a massive shot. And he really picked up the slack from Malik Monk struggling in this one. I really just enjoyed the way that this game was played. I like scores when it's like 109, 107 instead of like 120, 118. There's just something nice about the score being just a little lower. I think offenses have gone gotten a little out of hand. And so I like when, both teams are able to string some stops together. I feel like it makes the game entertaining. And it was also entertaining because it was a chess match from both teams where you have very different teams. The Magic, who are just a very big, long team, positionally big and strong, just a super physical team. And so the Kings are going zone to try to prevent them from getting in the paint and to try to prevent these one-on-one matchups, especially Paolo Banchero going right at Harrison Barnes or someone else. And then on the other side, you have a bit of a faster team, and the Magic are going zone to try to utilize their length and also just protect the paint and force the Kings to make outside shots. And the Kings started this game off pretty well. I thought De'Aaron did a nice job of driving early and kicking out for their spray threes, although it was a missed shot on that. I think it was the first offensive possession of the game. And then I got a little worried when there was a play where Keon, he was wide open, he didn't shoot, and then he hesitates a bit, then he feeds it to Sabonis, who feeds it right back to him, and he's open again, but he bobbles the ball, and then the possession doesn't end well. So I'm like, okay, we saw this late against the Wizards where he looked a little hesitant to shoot the open three. So I was a little worried about that. But then the next time he got the ball in a position where he was open, going around a Sabonis screen where the defender goes under, he just pulls that three and hits it. So it was nice to see him. I feel like he really realized right in the moment, like he should have shot that. And then the only reason he didn't shoot the second time was because he bobbled the ball, because we need him to be shooting out there, and he has been a very good shooter this season. And then also the way that he was utilizing him being hot from deep early on, and he was creating for others. So guys were running at him. He would pump fake, dribble inside, feed to Sabonis. He did that twice, one for a Sabonis midi, one for a Sabonis three. He was just making, outside of that one play early on where he didn't shoot the three, it felt like he made the right decision offensively every single time. And then his impact defensively. The Kings as a whole were just swarming defensively, and that's led by Keon. And it's also, De'Aaron Fox also contributes to that. Just having two guards out there that are going to be trying to put pressure at the point of attack and trying to get steals and knock balls away and get deflections. If Keon had been starting from the very start of this season, those two might lead the league in combined deflections for a backcourt. And so the Kings were playing pretty well in that first quarter, and then Jonathan Isaac comes in. And I immediately was intrigued. Right when I saw him coming in, I'm like, that seems like the type of player, that super athletic, long, big, that kills the Kings on the offensive end. I know what he can do defensively. And I knew he would be a problem there, but everyone knows that. I was more interested to see how he would do offensively. I'm like, man, he's going to be sitting in the dunker spot. He's going to be running the floor. He's going to be catching lobs. And, I was right that he was going to be a problem offensively for us, but I was completely wrong in the way that he would be a problem. I didn't think he'd be out here hitting pull-up mid-rangers and then just knocking down every single three. I mean, that was just insane. He got off to just an insane shooting start, and then he's wreaking havoc defensively. I mean, right when he came in, he hit that dribble pull-up. He blocks Sabonis's dunk. He hits a corner three. He forced a steal. I'm not sure if it was his steal, but he was definitely involved. And then he goes down and draws an and one. And then I think he even drew an and one later on as well, but missed the free throw. And so it felt like the Kings, they built up a solid lead. We're outplaying the Magic a little bit, earned a little bit of a lead, and then Jonathan Isaac just erased that immediately when he came in the game. I know Jonathan Isaac has been a guy that a lot of Kings fans have wanted on the Kings for a while, and people feel like he'd be the right fit to be that defensive presence for the Kings. And well, I think this showed why people want him on the Kings. And it's kind of funny, on the flip side, you have a lot of talk around the Magic wanting to go get Malik Monk, or having the capabilities of going and getting Malik Monk in free agency this upcoming offseason. And he did the opposite. He's trying to like lessen his value is kind of, if he's gonna have a bad game, this is a good one to do it in. Because yeah, Magic. Then you guys don't want Malik Monk. Come on, he went 0 for 11 with 0 points. But yeah, Jonathan Isaac was just a problem, and I think if the Magic won this game, it would be pretty clear. Like you're just pointing to Jonathan Isaac, and like that's the difference. Him making an incredible impact off the bench, a plus 26 off the bench. You have Markelle Fultz at a plus 21 as well. So it was just the Magic bench killing us. And on the flip side, you have Malik Monk at a minus 22. And so that really would have been the difference if we had lost this game. Alex Len came in and gave some solid minutes, though. He kind of negated a little bit of what Jonathan Isaac was doing. It could have been even worse, but he blocked 2 of Isaac's shots back to back. And then I definitely got worried in the second quarter. Fox looked like he maybe like hurt his ankle or his knee or something when he got hit by a screen. So that was a little worrying, but then also the Kings just started missing every shot against the Magic zone. They just couldn't get penetration and they stopped hitting the outside shot. Jonathan Isaac still going insane, carrying the Magic offense. But the Kings were able to stay close. Keegan was a very big part of that. And Fox, the Kings really struggled to score when Fox was out of this game. And obviously you look at Malik Monk struggling. That's a big part of it. Fox is out of the game. You need Malik Monk to be playing well usually to score, because we just don't really have anyone else that's going to create their own shot or even create for others. But the Kings were able to stay in the game through their defense. They were causing turnovers, scoring on the fast break. That was the key. It was getting those fast break points off of turnovers or off of misses. Sabonis did a good job of pushing the pace. And also the Kings were knocking down their free throws, which was nice. They went 18 for 21. So that's an area when your offense is struggling, you get to the free throw line, you got to knock them down. Keon hit a 3, and then he also came down and made a nice move inside to score. And that was kind of a surprising move. But I feel like he has shown that he has a little bit more to him offensively than just shooting the 3, or even than just making the right decision offensively. Like, he's created a few of his own buckets. There's a little something there. Paolo definitely became a little bit more of a problem towards the end of that second quarter, but thankfully his jumper wasn't dropping. Definitely not as much as it was in the last matchup. And the Kings, for the most part, were able to keep him quiet. Like, only 22 points on 8 for 18 shooting, 4 turnovers to his 5 assists. They were also able to keep Franz Wagner, relatively quiet, 18 points. I mean, those two guys are absolutely matchup problems. When we have Keegan on Franz, it's not too bad, but Paolo's a massive mismatch problem. And then if Franz gets anyone else on him, that's a mismatch. But really, that Kings zone just did a really good job of disrupting things for the Magic and forcing them to take tough shots around the rim and contesting around the rim. Fox finally was able to knock down a 3 on the 2-for-1 at the end of the second quarter. And he took 12 threes. So out of his 22 shots, 12 of them were threes. That's not great, but it's definitely not as bad as it looks. He took a lot of them at the end of the shot clock, or at the end of, like going for a 2-for-1. So it's not as bad as it looks, but it still definitely wasn't good. Like, his shot selection was definitely not great by any means, but I think it was better than what he was doing against the Wizards. They were better shots than that, and he was getting to his spots inside as well. It was always going to be tough to get all the way to the rim and score, but he was getting to his mid-range shots and, knocking down a fair amount of them. He went 7 for 10 inside the arc, 8 for 9 at the free throw line. And so there are definitely some of those 3-point shots that I don't think he should be taking, and we'll definitely get to one in the fourth quarter that he took. But it was definitely better than the Wizards game in terms of shot selection. Similar to the second quarter, the Kings got off to a slow start in the third quarter that had me a little worried. But then, you know what happened? The Kings just got the ball to Keon Ellis, and good things happened when Keon Ellis touched the ball on offense. And the Kings offense did a really good job of constantly moving the ball, and they did break the paint and then kick it out, and they had good ball movement around the perimeter. But man, the Magic, they're just long and they're really good defensively. So even ones where we did get it, a good shot, it still was slightly contested at the least. They're just tough to get a good shot against with their length. But the Kings did heat up from three, and you could tell the Kings had Paolo frustrated, and Fox swiped him clean. Got called for the foul initially, but it was clearly clean, and Mike Brown challenged it, won that challenge. And like I said, the Kings defense was just swarming the Magic. Getting out in transition was huge. But then the Kings, after, a quick little flurry offensively, knocking down some threes, then they went cold in the third quarter as well. Keegan picked up a really dumb foul, his fourth foul, just swatting at a ball that he was never going to get after the Magic got a rebound. And so he had to go out of the game. And he picked up a fifth in the middle of the fourth as well, but he was able to stay in and not pick up a sixth. But even with the Kings going cold, they held the lead for a good amount of time with their defense. And then it really was only when Sabonis got inside and got whacked across the arms by Jonathan Isaac, and there was no call. And then that led to a Paolo three. Like, that was when the momentum really shifted. And so it was only because of a missed call that the Magic really came back into it there. And so the Kings did a great job of, like, Mike Brown has talked about this so much, of not blaming the offense every time it goes cold, of just like, well, we went cold, so we lost the lead. Like, you have to be able to rely on your defense to get some stops, and that's exactly what they did. Then you had that Chris Duarte foul on Suggs, the 4-point play that could have been, but then Suggs missed the free throw. But just Mark Jones going, you can't foul here, or you don't want to foul here. Duarte must have misheard him. He must have heard him say something about foul. He's like, I got you. Just run straight into Suggs. Like, what are you doing? Early on, Duarte did have a good 3-point shot. He got to the rim. He scored the most points off the bench for us in 10 minutes with 5 points. But he had some dumb moments. That was the biggest one. Thankfully, Fox was able to come down, hit the three at the buzzer to tie it. And Fox he was feeling himself at the start of the fourth quarter a bit. He had the oop from Monk in transition off that Keon steal. He was hitting some jumpers. Then he took a crazy shot that I think he airballed. Like, he took a step back. I think that was the one he airballed. And then Malik Monk takes a step back long too. I'm just like, what are you guys doing? 2 wasted possessions in a row. Especially Monk taking a long 2-step back in isolation when you're 0 for 9 at that point. But I guess we're just living and dying by Malik Monk. And in some ways I am okay with that. But I guess Mike Brown wasn't, because Mike Brown didn't play Malik Monk down the stretch of this game, which was very interesting. But the Kings were able to stay close at the start of the fourth quarter despite some questionable calls, we'll say. Just I think 2 complete missed out of bounds calls. And then off that one out of bounds call, we just get called for 2 touch fouls back to back. Just like, you already missed the out of bounds calls, and now you're giving us these touch fouls. Like, come on. But the Kings were able to stay close. And then Keegan coming up huge, knocking down threes. And the Kings were able to get on the offensive glass and make things happen. And then we had that Keon step back. That was so beautiful and such a big shot. But, the Kings built up a 6-point lead, I think it was. But then they just weren't able to get stops down the stretch. But they were scoring. And then we kind of got to the point where it's the last 2 minutes, last minute. And I understand why Mike Brown didn't have Malik Monk out there. He's 0 for 11. He is not going to provide the same defense that Keon Ellis or Keegan Murray or even Harrison Barnes, I guess, just with his size, is going to provide. So on one hand, I get it. But on the other hand, I'm like, we need our ball handler out there. Like, he is the primary ball handler in the clutch. Fox, a lot of times, is going to play off ball in the clutch. And then we get it to him, and then he goes to work. But Malik's usually the guy handling the ball. And for me, I feel like Malik, like, he's not just some role player that, like, he's having a rough shooting game. Like, he's not Kevin Huerter, where he's having a rough shooting game, so you just sit him down the stretch. Like, I feel like he's your third best player. So it doesn't matter. Like, obviously, if Fox or Sabonis are having a bad game, they're going to play down the stretch no matter what. And I feel like Malik Monk should be in that same level because there's just no one else out there that does what he does and provides what he provides. And I have faith in him, like, even if he's not shooting it well, to make the play down the stretch. And he was still playmaking well. He had 5 assists, 1 turnover. He had that beautiful wraparound pass to the perimeter to Harrison Barnes from inside that Barnes missed, but that was so beautiful. And so, like, he's still making things happen. And you have, Paolo missed a step back 3. So it was like the first Kings stop in a while. And then Fox just comes up and dribbles it off his foot. And that's where I'm like, you need Malik Monk. Because that's where Fox would just find Malik Monk. And, I mean, he did have Sabonis right next to him. And Mo Wagner was down behind the play. So he could have just, there's a lot of things Fox could have done other than just dribbling straight into Suggs and dribbling it off his foot. There's plenty of things he could have done. But that right there was just like, that's where Malik Monk probably wouldn't let that happen. And Malik Monk's made mistakes in the clutch, don't get me wrong. But still, I feel like you got to have him out there. And so you had Fox do that, then the Magic score, bring it within 1. Franz Wagner scored. Then you have Fox chucking up a bad 3. Like, just nothing happens on the possession, and Fox chucks up a bad 3. So that's another place where I'm like, that's not happening with Malik Monk on the floor. And then the Magic come down, Cole Anthony hits a tough layup to take the lead. And then we get bailed out by Suggs being stupid and pushing Fox over the half-court line. Like, we got bailed out by him being stupid because our offense was going nowhere. Sure, Fox has hit plenty of clutch shots and made clutch plays, so he could have scored even if he didn't get fouled there. But, like, we got lucky because in those last 3 possessions, we didn't have to make something on offense happen to score to win this game. And we got lucky because of that. And I just think that shows the value of Malik Monk. And as for that foul call, well, first of all, with the touch fouls that were happening and the missed out of bounds calls earlier in the fourth quarter, I think we earned that. But also, it was a foul. Like, I understand why people are annoyed at the late whistle. But that's just what happens. Like, that's something that the ref is going to let go if it's not going to result in a turnover. But because it's going to result in a turnover, if he doesn't call it, he has to call it. Because it is a foul. Like, Suggs pushes him. And then to De'Aaron's credit, after 2 bad offensive plays and many times missing clutch free throws throughout this season, and just, the Kings in general missing clutch free throws, he stepped up, knocked them both down, gave the Kings a 1-point lead. Then that second to last defensive possession was just a mess. But the Kings did a pretty good job in the mess of, first of all, not allowing anyone to just pick up an offensive rebound and go in for a layup. Like, that's number 1. And then second, getting out to the shooters, but they were disciplined. You're not fouling the shooter. You're not sending multiple guys so that they can just drive by and get to the lane or make a pass inside because you left someone inside. And so that's always the number 1 thing off these offensive rebounds. And it's why a lot of times shooters get open, but it's just the way it is. Like, you have to defend the paint first. And they did a good job of that. It was just a messy play. And the Kings, I thought, defended it pretty well. And they were able to eventually come up with the rebound. Keon Ellis steps up, gets fouled with, 2 seconds left. Misses 1 to make it, even more stressful for us, but makes the second. And then that last possession was defended well. Fox getting the contest off on Paolo, not letting him turn the corner or anything like that. Just a big, big win for the Kings. I didn't really talk about Sabonis too much, but he was really good. Obviously super important rebounding the ball against this Magic team, but just battling down low, but also not forcing anything into the length. I think him only having 2 turnovers, one of them on a clear missed call. So only, I guess, 1 turnover that I'm, really saying was his fault. I think that's extremely, extremely important that he's not turning the ball over against this Magic team. I thought he picked his spots well, took the shots that he needed to take, contested well at the rim inside without fouling. and just a really, really solid game. And that's what Sabonis does. He just gives solid game after solid game, continues that double-double streak, doesn't quite get the triple-double. Harrison Barnes couldn't knock down the three today, but did have some nice drives, got to the free throw line, provided that much needed offense, and then, had to guard Paolo for a lot of the game, both in the zone, but definitely when the Kings were in man. It's really funny watching Harrison Barnes play defense because, like, he's not a good defender. Like, he's slow, can't rebound, gets stuck on screens, but he's just out there. Like, he's just a body that gets in the way, and a lot of times that's enough. Like, he has the strength. I can only remember one time where Paolo really put him in the weight room. And so him just being strong enough to just stand there a lot of times does like, that's just something that no one else on the Kings can do. And maybe that's just sad, but it's the reality of the situation. I mean, if we had a guy like Jonathan Isaac, man, that would be amazing. But like, the reality is we have nobody out there like that. And so it's just Harrison Barnes who has to just stand there and take hit after hit inside. And you just have to live with him getting blown by a few times or allowing an offensive rebound or two. Keegan obviously talked about knocking down his shots. Good rebounding game from him. Fox, solid offensive game. Wish the shot selection was a little bit better, but solid game against a tough defense. Keon Ellis out here playing 37 minutes. That's what we love to see. 37 minutes. Having that career high in points with his family at the game, I think they said, because he's from Florida, right? I think he's from Florida. And just stuffing the stat sheet as he always does. Alex Len, solid 9 minutes defensively. Davion Mitchell, I thought actually was pretty solid offensively. Like, he came in, hit a nice mid-ranger, was actually trying to drive towards the basket at least a little bit. It was kind of more defensively where he got exploited a bit because of his size. And I was just thinking about it, watching Jonathan Isaac absolutely dominate. And not necessarily even on the offensive end, just dominate on the defensive end. And I'm just thinking, like, man, Davion Mitchell is supposed to be our Jonathan Isaac pretty much. Like, the guy who's the defensive guy off the bench. And like, that's just like so obviously one of our biggest weaknesses. Like, our defensive presence guy off the bench is 6 feet tall and can just get bullied by bigger guys. Like, he's not much on offense usually. And so for him to be the defensive guy, it's not good. And definitely somewhere where the Kings need to upgrade. Malik Monk, good playmaking, horrible shot making, and then Duarte, some good baskets, but yeah, not the greatest decisions. For a little bit, the Kings moved up to 6th with this win because they, I think, have the tiebreaker over the Suns and Mavs at this point. But then the Suns won, so now they're in 6th. We're in 7th. Dallas in 8th. We're tied with Dallas. So coming up, we got the 76ers. That's just a game we need to win. 76ers without Joel Embiid, not been good, but we played them earlier without Joel Embiid, right? That was without Joel Embiid, and we lost pretty badly, like absolutely blown out to them. Tobias Harris always seems to kill us. Hopefully Keegan can do something about that this time defensively. And then it's the 2 games against Dallas. So those are pretty much the biggest games of the season, those 2 games. So we went 2-1 on this road trip. Not the 2 wins necessarily that, you would think we would get, although it kind of is the ones you would think we'd get because, it's the Kings. But now we move on to this 5-game homestand where it is Philadelphia, Dallas, Utah, Clippers. Those Dallas games are going to be fun. That's like a very interesting part of the schedule that we just have Dallas back to back near the end of the season. I guess well done by the schedule makers for that one. But looking more at the game against the 76ers, the Kings have obviously been playing much better defensively as of late. It'll be very fun to see Keon Ellis going up against Tyrese Maxey, to see Keegan against Tobias Harris. At least I hope that's the matchup. Maybe you need Keegan for Kelly Oubre, but I would just rather see him on Tobias Harris. But I think you just have to come out and set the tone defensively and be super physical because this is a team without their best player, without their top scorer. And this is very much a game where we can lock them down defensively for the whole game if we don't let them get comfortable early on. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back to recap that game against the 76ers, so I'll see you all then. Peace.